In the quiet minutes before dawn, when the world still holds its breath, Evan Miller sat alone on the edge of his bed, staring at the empty space where his wife used to sleep. She'd been gone for 2 years, taken by an accident so sudden it had torn the ground from beneath his feet. And yet every morning, the room still felt hollow in the same aching way. But nothing compared to the look in his little girl's eyes whenever she whispered, "Daddy, are you okay?" She was only 6, but she could sense storms long before they arrived. And lately, the biggest storm brewing wasn't inside Evan. It was outside in the world that was supposed to help him rebuild. Before we go deeper into this emotional journey, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness and second chances, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It truly helps our channel grow. Evan worked long hours at a marketing firm under a boss who in anyone else's life might have been a blessing. Claire Hawthorne, a woman in her early 30s with a presence so commanding she could walk into a room and silence chaos with nothing but a glance. She was brilliant, ambitious, and known across the company for having expectations as sharp as her red dresses. But she also had something else, something people whispered about but didn't quite understand, a soft spot for those who struggled silently. She had that softness for Evan, though he had no idea. Every day, Evan arrived to work late by 5, 10, sometimes 20 minutes. His daughter, Leah, needed to be dropped off at school, and he refused to rush her mornings because she clung to him like he was the last familiar thing in a world she no longer understood. Claire noticed. She noticed everything. She noticed the exhaustion behind his forced smiles, the way he skipped lunches to make up work, the worn edges of his backpack that he used because buying a briefcase felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. She noticed the empty ring finger he rubbed whenever he thought no one was watching. She noticed him more than she should have allowed herself to, and she hinted suddenly at first. She loosened deadlines for him alone. She reassigned his heavier workloads. She offered him remote hours, flexible shifts, gentle reminders that he didn't have to carry everything on his shoulders. But Evan, in his stubbornness, and fear of being seen as weak, kept declining her offers. He believed that accepting help meant he was failing not just himself, but his daughter, too. He believed a good father didn't lean on others. But Claire's patience began to crack. Not out of anger, out of concern. He was drowning and she was the only one throwing him ropes while he refused everyone that the day everything changed was painfully ordinary. Evan rushed into a meeting 20 minutes late, breathless, shirt half-tucked, apology trembling on his lips. But Claire didn't look at him with frustration. She looked at him with something that scared him more, disappointment. The room felt suddenly colder. She ended the meeting early, her voice clipped and unfamiliar. When everyone filed out, she said only one sentence. "Evan, stay back." He stood frozen. His hands trembled slightly, and he shoved them into his pockets to hide it. Claire closed her laptop, leaned back, and looked at him in a way that pierced through defenses he'd spent years building. She said he needed to start taking her words seriously. She said she couldn't keep covering for him, protecting him, bending rules for him if he refused to meet her halfway. But Evan, exhausted and overwhelmed, heard something entirely different. He heard a threat. He heard failure. And for the first time, he snapped. He told her she didn't understand. He told her he didn't need pity. He walked out before she could finish her sentence. That night, after putting Leah to bed, Evan sat alone again. Only now the weight was heavier, pressing into his chest like a boulder. He replayed everything he had said. He replayed Claire's expression, hurt mixed with fear, and he realized he had crossed a line he never meant to cross. He wanted to apologize. He thought about calling her. He didn't. Instead, fate came knocking. Nearly 9 p.m. His doorbell rang. Leah was asleep, the house dim except for the warm kitchen light. Evan opened the door and froze. Claire stood there framed by the doorway, wearing that unmistakable red dress, her face flushed with emotion. And before he could speak, she burst out, her voice cracking through the silence like lightning. "You're fired." Evan's heart stopped. The words punched through him, stealing breath and reason. But Claire didn't let the silence swallow him. She stepped forward, eyes fierce and full, not of anger, but of desperation. She told him she'd been trying for months to help him, to reach him, to ease the burdens he refused to share. She told him she fired him not because she wanted him gone, but because he wasn't listening, because he needed a shock big enough to make him finally see the truth. He couldn't survive this alone. Then her voice broke, softening into something almost trembling. She told him she couldn't watch him burn himself out. Not after everything he'd already lost. Not when she cared so deeply, more deeply than she knew how to admit in an office setting. In that moment, Evan realized she wasn't firing him from his job. She was firing him from the illusion that he had to be invincible. She was firing him from the idea that strength meant silence. She was firing him from the walls he kept around his heart that he sank down on the floor, overwhelmed. And for the first time since his wife's passing, he let the tears fall freely. Claire knelt in front of him, her hands hovering for a second before she finally rested them gently on his shoulders. She didn't tell him to stop. She didn't lecture him. She simply stayed, grounding him in the warmth he didn't know he needed. When he finally looked up, he saw the truth in her eyes. She wasn't his boss in that moment. She was someone who cared. Someone who refused to let him collapse. Quietly, things didn't change overnight, but they changed. Claire didn't fire him from the company. Instead, she rewrote his schedule, forced him to accept help, and made him promise to let others in. She became a presence in Leia's life, too, reading her stories, helping with school art projects, bringing moments of laughter back into a home that had forgotten the sound. Weeks turned into months, and Evan learned something life-changing. Sometimes strength isn't found in carrying everything. Sometimes, it's found in knowing when to let someone walk beside you, and Claire walked beside him. Every step. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue making stories that uplift and inspire.